Alright, hello there. I've never made a YouTube video before, so I have no idea how to start this. I'm coming to you live from my basement, my bedroom in the basement. I'm living large down here, love it down here, you know, far away from everybody. So this video is on being the youngest sibling and just kind of what that's like growing up. I'm of course qualified to talk about this as I am the youngest sibling. I have three older siblings, 2 older sisters and an older brother. So that's just a little bit about me. So this video is definitely going to be more relevant for people like me who are the youngest child in their family. If you aren't the youngest child in the family, I don't really know why you clicked on this because it's right there in the title, but you know, you're welcome to stick around if you want to. So I made a list of 4 pros and 4 cons I've kind of found relevant to my life growing up as the youngest sibling, and then a list of 4 pros and cons. It's kind of like a mixture of both. They can kind of go either way. My first pro is a bit of a stereotype. I think there's definitely some truth to it, and that is your parents are a bit more relaxed on you than they were your older siblings. Like for example, I got to have friends sleep over or, you know, start sports at a much earlier age than my older siblings. So, you know, that's kind of nice. Pro number 2. So being the youngest sibling, you get to learn from your older siblings and kind of follow in their footsteps. So for example, my older siblings helped me with things like avoiding certain teachers in high school or driving or applying to post-secondary because they had already gone through it themselves. Pro number 3. So speaking of driving, my older siblings kind of acted as my personal chauffeur when I was too young to drive. So I made them take me like to school or to work or to my friends' houses. And they complained a lot, and I definitely still owe them a bunch of rides, but you know, it was a nice perk. So pro number 4, my last pro, is that I found I was more mature than people my age growing up. Like for example, I'd watch the TV shows my sisters wanted to watch or play the games my brother wanted to play. Being in a house where everybody's older than you, I think it's natural for your hobbies and interests to kind of align with theirs and be above your age demographic. So now that we're done with the pros, it's time to move on to some cons. My first one is that being the youngest, I was stuck in the smallest room in my house until I was 20 and my sister moved out. Well, this definitely isn't like the biggest deal in the world. I do not miss sleeping in a single bed. I also think there's some more pressure to move out as the youngest sibling. Like for example, my sister lived here till she was 27, but it wasn't weird because all the siblings still lived at home. But if I'm still here when I'm 27, I do not think my parents would be thrilled. Con number 2 is a classic. Being the youngest, you just get picked on a lot. I get along with my siblings really well, but they definitely don't hesitate to make me the butt end of every joke they can. My third con is that traditions wear off by the time you grow up. So an example of this for me is our Easter egg hunt. When my siblings kind of lost interest in it, my mom just stopped doing it altogether, even though I still wanted to look for Easter eggs. I still kind of do. My last con, I think, is also the most important, and I'll talk about it a bit more later. But being the youngest, you get compared to the accomplishments of your older siblings a lot. It can be hard to live up to the high expectations, and you kind of feel you need to impress your parents. But I think it's important for you to follow your own path and not worry about what your siblings have done, but worry more about what you want to do. So now we're on to the pros/cons part of the list. I'm not really sure what to call this. My first one is hand-me-downs. So being younger than my brother, I got all his old clothes growing up until I got taller than him. And the negative of this is that the old van that all my siblings got to drive was out of commission by the time I got my license, so I never had an old car to drive. My second pro/con is that my siblings pushed me to become better at a lot of stuff. Being older, they would always crush me in like board games or sports, so I'd have to practice or train to become better and be able to beat them, which I still hardly ever did. So the pro of that is that it definitely keeps you driven, but the con, of course, is that losing a lot definitely hurts your self-esteem. My third pro/con is that you're forced to be a bit more independent than your siblings were at the same age. Because all your siblings are able to take care of themselves, there's kind of a higher expectation on you to do the same. So for example, I had to learn how to do my own laundry or make my own lunch at a much younger age than my siblings had to. Well, this is obviously a pro because it forces you to become a bit more independent. It can be a little tough because you're on your own for a lot of things that your parents helped your siblings through. My last pro/con of being the youngest child is your parents are much more lenient with you. Well, the pro of this is obviously you have more freedom to hang out with your friends or do whatever you want. I think the drawback is that your parents aren't invested in your schoolwork or your hobbies than they might have been your older siblings when they were your age. So it can be a little tough to be disconnected from your parents like that. So to conclude, if I could go back and give my younger self some advice about being the youngest child, I think I would stress the importance of using your older siblings as a roadmap and taking their advice and seeing what works and what doesn't. But I also want to stress the importance of building your own identity. Find your own hobbies and interests and explore things that you want to do and that you're passionate about. I also think it's important to note that the age gap shrinks over time. For example, my oldest sister is 7 years older than me. So when she was off in university studying, I was just going into grade 7. But now she's 29 and I'm 22. And while we're still on different stages of our lives, it's a lot less significant than it was before. I think as you grow older, that gap seems more minimal and you seem more like equals than you were as kids. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to thank you for watching. It was a lot of fun to put together and think back about my relationships with my siblings growing up. I also reached out to a few of my friends who were youngest siblings and we kind of had our little bonding moment over our experiences. If you're to take one thing away from this video, I think I'd want it to be that the youngest sibling is the best sibling and it's not really even close. Bye.